a D20 roll-under D&D style game that's lightweight, strategy-focused, and has no requirements to read a bunch of books. A rules refresh for a game that's been around since the early 80s. It's tactical, it's easy to learn, and it's fun. This is Dragonbane.
lead the way. New RPG systems every day. Dice roll, quick adventure calls. Walking through tabletop's golden halls. Masters of pen and paper. RPGs of every flavor. Talking about different creators. The choice of games is never greater. Come with us to games they run through. New, old, and interesting. Thank you all for listening.
Welcome to the show, episode 7, Masters of Pen and Paper podcast. I am your very humble co-host, DG, and this is my main man,
Finny. Hello.
How's it going tonight or today, whenever it is that you are listening to this podcast?
We don't know when you listen
We
to
don't
the
know.
podcast.
I mean, hopefully you listen to it at all the times. Today we've got a this one's a unique one. So I had actually come up with this game, which doesn't happen very often, if
very
ever.
often.
I had said, "Hey, Finny, check this one out," and you were like, "This looks really good." Fantastic game. We'll get into the guts of it here, but the whole premise is the book itself is only like 100 pages, I think, which includes like spells and all of that junk that's in there. So it felt like it was rules light. So I was like, here we go with another Dungeon Crawl Classics or a Merkborg or something like that. But as I got a little bit deeper into it, I was like, this is a little bit different. I would actually classify this as like rules medium. It's not rules light.
Medium.
It's like right dead center.
It is. It's rules medium is a really good description of it, because we're getting away from the heavy D&D, multiple books, Pathfinder, multiple books, all these multiple book systems or rule sets, and getting into a single book again, like Dungeon Crawl Classics, like Merkborg, like stuff like that. And it's simplified, but it's deep. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. And it's a really neat little game. First published in 1982 as Drakar och Demoner, which is Swedish for dragons and demons. It was made and published by Target Games out of Sweden as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally built as a wargaming system, but then was later adapted to a tabletop RPG when one of the founders, one Frederick Malmberg, moved to the U.S. to ease the import of wargaming games into Sweden, because I guess there was some tariffs or something. The importing was really tough to get from the United States, where at the time wargaming was fairly large, and Sweden, where wargaming was budding, right? It's
really interesting because Dungeons and Dragons had a very similar start, right? Gary Gygax, the chainmail rule set. It started in wargaming, and the funny thing that I've noticed with this, and we'll get into it as we get further into the episode, but this game very much held on to its wargaming components. Like, this game, the strategy in this game is significantly higher than I was expecting as we got deeper into it. Whereas I felt with D&D, they went the other way with it. They went more the RP side of the house, where this one is more you can really feel that wargaming influence.
Yeah. So once Frederick moved into the United States, he saw the popularity of D&D surging in the United States, and he thought, well, it's already starting to come into Sweden, but we're having translation issues because I don't know if you know this, but the United States speaks English,
really,
American, and Sweden speaks broken English.
For the most part. They also speak Swedish.
They also speak Swedish. One would say that would be their first language.
I would make a guess, an educated guess. I think that makes a lot of sense too, right? Like, I mean, you've got a guy trying to bridge the gap, seeing an opportunity to capitalize here, because this is 1982. This isn't like there's a bunch of games on the market of this style, right? Dungeons and Dragons exists, but it's not like it is today.
It's still in its infancy, right? We're still, this is still taboo Dungeons and Dragons here, right?
That's right.
This is my kid is down in the basement summoning the devil.
Getting close to the Satanic Panic era.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the founder. So Malmberg is roommates with somebody by the name of Steve Perrin, who is a playtester for Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu, which, spoiler alert, is coming to the pods here.
And we will see the influence for that later on in the game.
Exactly. And so this obviously has an impact on the design, because he's looking at the D&D system and being like, we can make something better of this. This is an inferior product to what we've got.
Yes. He's quoted as saying it's inferior and obsolete, the D&D rules.
That's right. And I mean, like, I get it. Like, if you're looking at it from the point of view of a wargaming game, no way. D&D is not a wargaming game. D&D is an RPG.
Yes,
exactly. You can see the influence, but put Warhammer on a table and put D&D on a table. They could be apples and oranges at this point.
They are very, very different games.
Yeah.
There's role-playing in them to a point, but it is very different role-playing.
Absolutely.
Target Games bought a license to publish Chaosium's basic role-playing rule set, which, spoiler alert again, is the rule set that RuneQuest is made of. That is also a future episode.
We're throwing down a lot of coming soon RPGs, and that's why this game fits so nicely here, because it ends up being this kind of center hub of like, it's connected to this game, and it's connected to that game, and it's connected to this game, and it's something that you find of games of that era as well, right? Like it was a small world where people were like, hey, I see what that game is doing, and I'm going to tweak it slightly and do this. We're going to take D&D out of the fantasy setting and stick it in 1920s H.P. Lovecraft and Call of Cthulhu. You know, like, we're going to put vampires in it and Vampire the Masquerade. We're going to, you know, like, and all of a sudden you've got all these different games that end up being wildly different, but very, very similar.
They all start at roughly the same spot with...
For sure.
D&D starting, and then after the first edition, it just blossoms into this giant network of interconnected nerdoms that produce these amazing games.
Exactly.
And as it spreads out further and further, you find that they've reiterated themselves, and they've made just they're taken their rule set and made it even more unique to themselves. And that's so cool, just doing all the research for these games, just to see that happening.
You start to feel like the guy with the board behind you and the yarn strings pointing out the conspiracies and the connections between them all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So Free League Publishing ended up with the IP for Drakkar Ok Diminar through multiple exchanges of hands since Target Games went bankrupt and owned it. In 2022, Dragonbane was successfully crowdfunded and released in 2023 as the newest edition of Drakkar Ok Diminar, published in English, Swedish, and German, of all things.
And at this point now, we've got a new publisher, we've got a new CEO, we've got new people at the helm, because 2022, the game is not popular, let's call it. I mean, it's popular in its bubbles of the people who played this in their youth, but as time's going on and D&D's growing in popularity and all these other RPGs are spawning, this one was kind of not brought forward.
Yeah, it was. It's got a slow crawl crawling start to it. It's gaining momentum, it sounds like, and it feels like, but it by no means shook the foundations of gaming, right?
Exactly. And so mentioned as a Kickstarter, so basically it's a box set is what the primary Kickstarter. There was stretch goals and all this other stuff that you could have got, but the meat and potatoes of the Kickstarter was essentially this box set that included the game itself, the rule set, and an adventure book. And then you had initiative cards, treasure cards, adventure cards, dice, tokens, a solo adventure for getting into solo play of the game, which is actually works really well with this rule set. And then a map of the world, which was done in this like beautiful watercolor. The art is phenomenal, and so right across the board,
amazing.
The artwork is fantastic. And then in the box was some blank character sheets, and then pre-generated character sheets, battle maps, artwork, etc. Very cool kit, right?
Yeah,
like
it's
that
very
box is
complete.
It's got a lot of stuff in it, and I mean,
that's a full box.
Since then, they've released other stuff as well, but that calling it the core set kind of thing, which currently right now, because Kickstarter is obviously over, but right now it retails for about $50 American or so. You can get it on Amazon or your local game shop if it carries it, etc. Right? So,
which isn't that bad.
Not bad considering everything that you get in there
for that box full of stuff. That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. And so essentially, like we mentioned, it is a rules medium system. It is not like open up the book and let's go, but we'll get into it here as we kind of break open the nuts and bolts of the system. But the product is hefty for that $50.
Yeah, you get a lot.
I mean, you're
of
getting your money's
product
worth, I think.
That, yeah. So we are once again into a D20 system.
Back where I'm feeling comfy, baby.
Very comfortable. Yes, we love our D20s.
Except
we are doing a roll under now.
Yeah. Very interesting choice, which makes sense for the age of the system, because that's how it was.
And Chaosium, the Call of Cthulhu, is a roll under system as well.
That's correct, yeah.
So all those years of playtesting has rubbed off here.
A roll under system, for anybody that doesn't know, is essentially you are, so just like every other tabletop RPG, just like just like Dungeons and Dragons, you're rolling a D20 to meet or beat kind of thing. Except in this case, you are rolling a D20 to meet or go under that piece. So you make a skill check with a bow. Let's say your skill level with a bow is 14. You roll your D20. As long as it's a 14 or lower, it's a success. We don't do modifiers here.
It confused the heck out of me the first time I tried to read about a roll under system. I'm like, how does that can't work like that? And but yes, it can, because it simplifies everything.
No math.
Math.
You have a number, and you have to roll that number or less, and that's it for everything across the board.
Similar to Morkborg, right?
Yeah.
You if you meet that, you beat it. Like there's no modifying, there's no hidden skill checks, there's no hidden numbers anywhere. If you are under, you win.
Yeah,
and it's so slick.
Absolutely. The rule book itself is mentioned earlier, just over 100 pages, so we're not talking hefty here. Very light on the rules, especially for character creation, but enough to sink your teeth into anyways.
Oh yes. There are no set DCs for skill checks. Sorry. All you do is you roll your D20, and as long as you are below your skill rank, you succeed. So if you want to climb a tree using athletics, you roll. If your athletics is say 13 and you roll 12, you succeed.
Boom.
Bada
Easy
bing.
peasy.
You don't have to ask your DM, hey, I want to climb this.
Yeah.
What's the DC?
Yep.
DC's 18. Oh, okay. roll. Oh, wait, let me get my calculator out because I got a +5 from this and a proficiency.
Oh, by the way, I forgot I'm wearing these boots, and they give me a +2. And I'm going to cast Bless. And
yeah. And guidance, anyone? Guidance? Yeah.
No, it's right there on the page.
Straight roll, done.
Very simple.
Very, very similar. Very simple.
Yep.
Actions. On your turn, you get 1 move action and 1 action.
Yeah.
Which is
similar to some of the other light rules games that we've been playing, but I noticed that you added a little line, and I don't like what you got added in here.
Yeah, because it took me back when I first read it too. If you use your reaction outside of your turn, you lose your action on your turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you want to jump out of the way of something. You want to jump out of the way of an attack as it's coming at you. You can do it, but now you're not doing anything on your turn.
Now you can't attack. Yeah,
that's right.
It's a very odd way of doing it, and I want to say it's one of my least favorite parts about this system.
Not a big fan of it.
Is that specific little detail in there, which I would probably house rule that out.
Probably.
And well, I'd probably run it as is the first few times just to see get a feel for it.
How the impact is.
But in my head, I know what's going to happen, and it's going to not be pretty.
They want to lean into the strategy. They want to make you really consider all your options, right? And I understand that they don't want you to kind of overload, because that is what's going on with D&D. Is you've got in Pathfinder as well, you've got this action economy, and it slows the game down. And this game does not want you to do that. This game wants you to go snap, 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 snap. Figure out what you're doing. Move over here, do this action, do this, and get moving, right? The whole game is designed around moving quickly like that. But there is an incredible amount of strategy involved that is absolutely influenced by its wargaming heritage, right?
Yeah. And I dare say that a new player picking up this would have a tough time with it, because you have to kind of know your monsters that you're coming up against then. And that's, for a first-time player, that's going to be a little rough ski off the start.
Absolutely. So we get into the character creation of the game. The character creation is very, very light. They designed the system to be step by step. There's literally a checklist that's on page 9. And something that I liked about this is they designed the system so that there's not a lot of flipping back and forth. So, like in D&D, you decide you're going to be a dwarf, and you decide you're going to be a paladin, and then you got to go through and you're flipping back and forth to try and figure I got these abilities from this dwarf traits, and then I've got these paladin things. No, the way that this works is you start on page 9 and you literally go down that checklist. And you pick your race, you pick your it's not a class in here, it is the profession. Sorry. Yeah. There's not a class, there's a profession in here. Your age, your name, your basic character stuff. The character creation, so if we were to break the rule book down into percentages, character creation is like 10%. And then combat is like 90.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's what it feels like.
It really feels like the breakdown is that way. But I mean that's kind of the gist of it. Very light on the character creation.
Yeah. Character wise, our races, we have your standard human, halfling, elf, dwarf.
Right.
But we got some fun races too.
Got
now.
Some funkies.
Yeah, we got Mallard, which is a duck man.
A duck man.
Yeah. And we got Wolfkin, which is a wolf man.
Right. The Wolfman, again, the Mallard is a really interesting choice. And I was looking into it. I was trying to figure out, is this new? Is this old? Is this, but I mean, it's definitely not something I've seen in another game. Let's put it that way.
As soon as I saw Mallard.
Yep.
My mind immediately went to Scrooge McDuck.
100%.
I'm going to build Scrooge McDuck.
Yep. Real life DuckTales.
In Dragonbane, I'm going to have Scrooge McDuck as my first character.
Makes total sense to me. 100%. He would obviously be a merchant.
Yeah.
As a treasure hunter.
Getting into the classes, we have a couple new classes. Not new classes. not
it's an
ordinary
interesting,
classes.
an interesting choice. Well, I mean, so right off the bat, they did away with classes and they called it professions,
because it's
right?
your job now.
Because it's your job. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have artisan, which
Right.
lets you craft things, make things, and
Mm-hmm.
hit things with axes and knives and hammers.
Yeah, I thought that one was
Because-
interesting.
You build it, so
Yeah.
you chop it, you whittle it, or you smash it.
Yeah.
You got your bard.
Bard. Makes sense.
Fighter.
Makes sense. Classic.
Ranger. Hunter is your ranger type. Your
Yeah.
crossbow or your bowman with
Like a beastmaster.
Yeah,
he gets
yeah.
a pet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does. You get your knight, which is like a paladin, tanky paladin man.
Guy.
Yeah, your sword and board wearing heavy plate.
Mm-hmm.
Your mage, which is the only spellcaster in here.
Right. Light on the spellcasters for
Very
this
light
game.
because of the way spellcasting works and how overpowered
It
some
is-
of those spells are.
It is very it's an interesting mechanic, and we'll get into the guts
Yeah.
of that one.
We have Mariner, which
Mhm.
is a swashbuckler rogue-esque,
Pirate man. Yeah,
a sailor, yeah, pirate sailor.
Popeye.
You came off the boat, you're on land now.
That's right.
You got the merchant, which is difficult to.
It's an interesting character job class thing. The best I could come up with was that this is a treasure hunter, and so they're roguish. They're kind of like the stereotypical, like, well, I'll skim 10% off the top because finders fees and what have yous.
They're like
interesting.
Laura Croft, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting.
Or Indiana Jones. I don't know.
A little
Something like
out for
that.
themselves, I think. Though.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we have Scholar, which is kind of like cleric, wizard-ish things.
Yeah, they're just a smart. Well, all I could get was that they're just like a smart guy.
Yeah.
Like the scholar just knows things.
Knows
right?
a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There was one more.
Last but not least, we have our thief.
You got your
which is-
stereotypical thief, who is the
Steely guy.
Your classic, your classic rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean something about the character, the professions that they have. They are on one page. Like each job class is on a single page, so it is slick. It's simple. You look at it, you look at the thing, you add your things, you move on, right? Like I said earlier, like the whole character creation is streamlined. It is designed to get that thing created and go. You have the ability to roll if you want to do some rolling instead of actually choosing, but you could choose it, you could carry it. And by the way, I also learned that you do not need to just use the professions that exist. You could just make your own. You could pick and grab and do what you need to do out of these classes and build your own. There's a rule set for creating your own profession.
Like every game we talk about, this is your game.
Your fun is valid.
Hack it and make it yours to have fun with it. That's not saying, destroy it and turn it into something awful and say, oh, this game sucks.
This game's terrible. Everyone's overpowered.
Yeah,
I gave them all the abilities and they destroyed everything. No. I mean, the rule sets, variant rules are in there for doing your own thing.
They do have optional rules outlined that are, they're in these green boxes. They're very hard to miss.
Yeah.
And it specifically says at the start, optional rules are in these boxes.
Exactly.
Other things are in these boxes. You don't have to do these boxes.
Streamlined.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say that I appreciate that there's no slogging through pages to get what you need to get to.
I recently built a higher level paladin, and holy,
it is a lot.
I did a lot of. I mean, I do everything digitally, so that was a lot of scrolling and flipping between, and multiple books. Like I was flipping here, trying to make sure I got all of my everythings, and this just lays it out top to bottom, and in the order that you have to do it as well. The book's laid out like that, so you just continue reading through the book, and you just slot in your stuff as your character created.
Totally. Games like this have a tendency to really highlight the complexities of other games like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, right? Because you look at a game like this and you're like, man, I wish it could be that simple to just do that. But I mean, those complexities have to exist in those big games because of the customization of your character and slotting them into the world and making them fit with all the things. This one here is like, you're a guy, you have a sword, you're now a merchant, get out there and go fight, right? And out you go. And then that's that, right?
After we decide on our profession, we have to choose our age. Now, you can either choose this or roll for it. And that goes for any of these. You can either choose or roll for anything.
Right.
And the age thing is a really cool mechanic that I really love this part of this character creation, because the older you are, the more skills you are trained in right off the bat. And you do lose your you lose strength, and you lose agility, and you lose constitution, but you gain intelligence and willpower.
Right.
Now, the younger you are, the less trained skills you have, but you get a plus to agility and constitution.
You're a little more spry. You can get around a little bit better.
Yeah. And middle-aged adult is you get more trained skills, but you get 0 attribute adjustments, which is such a cool way of differentiating old to young. It's so slick.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. This whole system is really interesting, right? Like the whole player character, the creation of player characters, I'm not joking with the 10 and 90 split. It is 20 pages from start to finish. Out of the 112 pages in the entire book, 20 of them are dedicated to the player character, whereas the other stuff takes up like 80 pages, right? Like, and so they fit a lot of information into those few pages while still making it really easy to understand. And it's not overboard, right? Like, it sounds like we're throwing a lot of technical data, but truth be told, once you start building your character, it literally just starts to fall into place. You roll your attributes, you put your pieces there, then you start choosing your trained skills, which there are 30 core skills that you can pick from.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not that you can pick from. There are 30 core skills that you have. And then, like you said, depending on the age, that shifts things around, right? And depending on your the game that you're playing, depending on all of the different specifics within that, might shift around how those characters get built out. Personally, I would like to roll for it. I like to leave that kind of stuff up to chaos, just to see what happens,
just to see what comes out at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So personally, that's probably where I would go with it. But I mean, you get your choice of it. So.
Speaking of rolling, we're rolling attributes, and the rule books specify 46, drop the lowest, and that's, you place them however you want after that. At the end, the rule book allows you to swap 2 ability scores,
which is really generous.
It's very generous.
Games that are designed in the quote unquote old school way are very, like, if you're playing them by the book, you are rolling most of the time 3d6, but even if you're 46 drop 1, you're starting at strength and working your way down, like click, 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 and you're plopping your numbers in, and what you get's what you get. Your character sucks, so be it. They'll die, and then you'll build another one.
Exactly.
I liked that they opened up the door for you to A, slot them where you like, and B, swap 2 of them at the end of the whole thing, giving you a lot of flexibility to make the character the way you want them to.
Exactly. That's the thing I was going to say, is makes the character yours, and lets you build it the way you want to build it.
Right.
After we pick our skills, we get heroic abilities, which are special abilities that you get that use willpower, I believe.
This was an interesting system. I don't know if I like it that much, to be perfectly honest with you. They feel like feats, but they're not feats. They're the way you build your character.
Well, they come from your profession.
Right.
It's an odd way of It's an odd thing. But
like it ends up being the level up system, like fitting into it and all of that component. But
yeah,
it's just I don't know. This piece was confusing and a little bit. I was like, I don't know if I like that so much, but it is what it is. That's just how the system works.
Yeah. It's the way the system. That's how they decided to give you more options to flesh out your character.
Page 26 in the book, if you're looking for the specific,
following along at home.
Abilities.
I would also say that heroic abilities are given to everyone except mages.
That's right.
Mages do not benefit from heroic abilities.
Right, because they get magic.
They get magic, which is stupid powerful. No, but seriously, some of the
powerful.
skills are super powerful. Oh, HP is Constitution.
Yeah.
No modifier, no roll for it. No bring that up unless you level up. And
which is like,
speaking of level up, there is no level up in this game.
That's right. Level ups don't exist. Level ups was probably the biggest thing that I struggled with this game, because the way that you level up is based on basically crits and fumbles, but they don't call it crits and fumbles in this game. They call it dragons and
demons, because
demons.
That's what Drakar och Demoner means in Swedish, is dragons and demons.
And the dice set that comes with the box set actually has a dragon and a demon on the dice for 20 and 1.
Very cool.
And so basically the way it works is, as you're playing the game and you roll a crit on your bow, let's say you made a bow skill check and you rolled a crit, there's a little tick mark beside that skill. You would check that off. And then when you got to the end of your adventure, or whenever it is that the DM makes that call for it, the end of your session is what they say, but I don't know. That depends on so many different things.
I would say depends on the adventure.
It's so many different things. But by the book, it says at the end of your session, the DM then has you roll again, and he's going to ask you some questions, basically.
He asks you about the game, and he goes, "Did you participate in the game session?" Yes. Did you explore a new location? Sure. I don't know.
Why not?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Did you defeat one or more dangerous adversaries? Define dangerous. Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? Yeah, we talked our way out of something, I guess. Did you give into a weakness, which is an optional rule,
right, with
heroic abilities?
These are like your flaws.
Your character
flaws.
And if you answer yes to any of those, it doesn't have to be all of them. You get to put some ticks here and there. I believe you get to choose where you put them, however many times you said yes. And then you roll your dice. You roll a d20. And if you roll higher, your score in that tick box connected to that ability goes up 1. Now, this can only adjust once per session.
That's right. And they say per session, which I consider that a loose term, right? Because
I would say an in-person session of like 4 hours.
Yeah. Or like, this many encounters or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the combination of like these questions mixed with like your crits and stuff through the session, and then you roll against those skills, you can only increase them once. So if you've already if you've already got the tick mark beside the bow skill, obviously you can't have 2 spots there. Like there's only so many tick marks to go around, kind of thing. You can't stack them all and get +10 to bows on that turn, kind of thing.
If you increase your bow skill, say by 1, so it goes from a 15 to a 16, you cannot bump it up to a 17.
Increase it again. That's right.
That is stuck at 1 increase.
Correct. And so I don't know. It's an interesting system. I would lie to you if I told you that I liked it. I like the concept of like the incremental growth through sessions. personally, I'm a really bad dice roller, so this doesn't play well for me. But I mean, to each their own, right? Obviously, you could homebrew this system, and I think if it was my game, that is a change that I would make with this game. It's not my favorite system, but I think I could do some work with it. But between these ability score increases and then between these ability score increases and then the heroic abilities, you start to change your character a little bit, but it's just a really complicated way of doing a level up and not calling it a level up.
Yeah. It's a very long and drawn out level up is what it is.
For sure. And I mean, it keeps you engaged with the game. Maybe that's the purpose behind it, but
yeah,
I don't know. I didn't connect with that system. I can tell you that much.
No. We do have advantage, disadvantage back in this game. Mm-hmm. They are called boons and banes.
Boons and banes.
And you can have multiple boons.
Stack them.
You can stack boons and banes. So
yeah.
if you have a boon and a bane, it's just a straight roll.
Right.
If you have 2 boons and 1 bane, it is 1 roll with advantage. So that's 2 d20s. Take the highest. If you have 2 boons and 1 bane, that is rolling with... Sorry. If you have 2 banes and 1 boon, that is rolling with disadvantage. Roll 2 d20, take the lowest.
Right.
And you can just keep stacking them as long as it works with your story and your GM and all that stuff.
Right. For sure. You can gain some new abilities. So your heroic abilities, when you max out your skill, which is at 18, when you reach 18 and you increase from that point, now you're adding heroic abilities. You're no longer, this is the second half of your level up piece, right? So you increase your stats, and then once you've maxed those stats, then you can instead choose to add heroic abilities instead.
Yeah, but I think you can only get 1 heroic ability per.
It's not a lot. They are very, and rightfully so, because those heroic abilities do contain a pretty good amount of power in them.
They are pretty cool.
They're a little bit light on those, which makes sense. Again, interesting choices.
Yeah. So then we're into combat.
Mm-hmm.
Combat is a little complicated.
Combat is not a little bit complicated, dude. This game, it is tactical. This is a strategy game, and that's something I didn't know coming into this, right? I was coming into this thinking that this was a rules light D&D. It was something like, open the book and let's play a game tonight. No. This game is, you better know where you're going to move 3 turns in advance, because if you don't, you're getting killed.
This is roleplay chess. Yeah.
This is roleplay chess. There is a lot going on. The whole combat system is very, very in depth compared to the rest of the game. The combat system is very, very in depth.
Yeah. So to start combat, we of course roll initiative, except for in Dragonbane, we don't roll. We draw from a deck of 10 cards.
I like this. I like this idea.
It is very cool. I like this part.
I love rolling dice, but I will tell you, I do very much like the fact that we are, not only are we pulling cards, but we're pulling cards at the start of every round. I love a shifting initiative because it keeps everybody on their toes, right? If you go first this round, it doesn't mean you're going first next round. You could go last next round. It's shifting around, right? You don't know when the monster's going to go. You don't know. I love the concept. I will 100% be implementing my next D&D game. We'll be implementing a shifting initiative order because it's just so much more fun.
So you got cards numbered 1 to 10. You can use a regular deck of cards. Just pull out
for sure
1 to 10.
The box set comes with those cards, but
it does. But they're fancy, watercolored, beautiful cards,
beautiful.
Just like everything. So for 1 goes first, obviously 10 goes last. You can change your initiative. You can trade initiative cards with another player that has not gone yet.
Right. Yep. You can shift.
Because you cannot take, you went first. I'm going to take your card. Now you can go again because
once you've gone, you're done.
That's
when
right.
your turn comes up, there's no more trading that card. It's spent.
On your turn, you can do one move, which is you can move up to 18 meters, because this is, of course, European, so it is
Right.
in meters.
Yeah.
Each square is 2 meters, so you can move up to 6 squares away, which is it's still 30 feet.
It's still 30 feet. Don't worry. I know it's complicated. All you need to know is it's 6 squares.
Yeah, 6 squares. You can do one move and one action. So
That's right.
your action can be attack, open doors, drink potions, pick locks, pick something up from the ground, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving melee range incurs an evade roll.
So
Now,
always
this is-
are back on the table.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
They are.
They
I
are.
mean, like it's not like Pathfinder where it's like, well, maybe he doesn't have the ability to strike at me. No, if you leave combat range, you better tuck and roll.
Yeah. So each player, and this is part of your skill, 30 skills is your evade. So you roll your d20. If you roll under, you succeed. Ta-da!
Woohoo!
A failed roll, which means above a 20 or above your skill, means that the enemy gets an opportunity attack, an OA.
Right.
They get a free attack on you, and this does not count as a reaction from the enemy. That is the little asterisk there that I was looking for, because if that was a reaction, that automatically used their turn.
Took your action away. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, and so that is for enemies and players.
Right. So if the enemy moves away from you, you get to make that swipe just as much as they make the swipe.
Exactly.
Like it's balanced, at least in that way. But it is, it's an interesting choice.
Yeah, and also with that action, you can choose to parry or dodge.
Yep.
I was a little confused reading through that part.
Right. So you can parry. I really like the parry system. So again, strategy. It is strategy across the board. If you choose to parry, you can do so. However, you make the parry, cling. Your weapon has durability, and there can only take so many hits before it is permanently damaged and requires to be repaired. So if you parry with a dagger, I think the durability on a dagger is like 3 or something like that. So on that third parry, if it's successful, it will actually chip or break your dagger in a way that it's doing less damage than it was before. You've got decreasing resources that are happening the whole time. Parrying will allow you not to take the hit, but it could prevent you from doing enough damage to kill the monster next turn as well. So you're constantly strategizing how to deal with all of the threats that are going on.
I really like that.
It's a cool system. I do enjoy that. I thought that was a really cool idea. I mean, there's block, there's evade, there's all of those things. They all still exist. But the parry system, I thought that was really, really cool.
But the biggest thing to take away from this is all of those take an action or a reaction outside of your turn.
You betcha. So you're choosing defense over offense.
You are choosing defense over offense, which it's a choice.
It's a choice. That's right. Do I take the hit and instead of parrying, do I riposte and do the damage, or do I block the damage and hope that my teammate is coming up behind me to do the killing blow instead?
Again, with the focus on strategy, the new player to this game is going to have a rough time.
You're going to have a bit of a rough go. Yeah. If you don't have wargaming background, this one's going to sting a little bit, I think, which is why we were saying earlier that it's rules medium, right? Like it's not heavy duty. It's definitely not light, because when you get into this stuff, those battles are make or break based on your knowledge base of these skills and these systems that are built into the combat.
Yes, and how they interact with each other.
Exactly.
Okay, so enough tangenting. We need to get back on course here.
Let's talk about some wizard stuff.
Yeah,
there is only one spellcaster. The mage is the only person in the game who can cast magic, and they get an entire 12 pages dedicated to casting magic.
Yeah,
they get 12 pages worth.
So you use your willpower, which is one of your attributes that you roll, and you can only prepare your base int level.
Right.
So your base int level is 3 to 7.
Right.
There's a table that tells you, you rolled a 12. This is what you got a 5 base skill.
Anybody following along the books, page 57 is where magic's going to be starting on.
There we go. And it takes 1 action to cast them.
Yep.
But you do also get to use a reaction on your off turn.
So, unlike all the other characters, in this case, you do get an action and a reaction, technically.
Exactly. Yeah. Hence why the mage does not get a heroic ability.
Right. That's what they sacrifice for it.
Because magic is stupid powerful.
It's very powerful.
So, but you can only cast a spell as long as it has the reaction trait or whatever you want to call it in here. Yeah. Like a shield or something like that. I'm going to be honest. I didn't look through the spells to see what they were.
So
my bad.
I did take a look through the spells. Just before we jump into that though, something that was really cool. So we just talked about this in Dungeon Crawl Classics on the last episode. Yes. Your mage has the ability to give up HP to like dig deep to get more willpower to cast more spells. So you can make that choice. Reduce my HP to cast that spell and potentially win the battle. It might be a choice for you to make.
And to do that, you decide as the player to roll either any dice, a D4 up to a D20.
Yep.
Now, the caveat is you get what you roll as your willpower at that moment in time, but you also get damaged for that. Now, let's remember, your HP is your Constitution score.
Right.
So if you roll that D20 and you hit 20, your mage is dead.
You're gonna have a bad night.
Your mage is gonna have he's gonna burn himself out.
You dug too deep on that one. Should have pulled it back a little bit.
But if you're feeling unlucky, you're welcome to roll that D20 and hopefully get a really low number because
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very, very cool. We also have crit fumble tables. Crit and fumble tables for melee, ranged, and magic. Whatever willpower you get from rolling your D4 to D20 on your dig deep roll, if you don't use all that willpower, it is gone. Yeah. It doesn't carry over to the next round. No, it's gone.
It's gone.
You don't get to stockpile that just because you burned, 17 of your 18 health.
Nope.
It's gone.
She gone. That's it. Best of luck. Better luck next time.
Speaking of magic, your schools of magic are differently labeled than what we're used to.
They're different enough from the OGL to separate them away so that they're their own thing.
Bingo.
I did like the schools of magic. Animism, animal stuff. Elementism, element stuff. Mentalism, psychic stuff. And then general magic is like your flash, your lights, your basic stuff. Like
your every magician can do this thing.
Everyone. Yeah. There is Fireball in the game, but Fireball is not Fireball. It is Fireball. It is like a firebolt, right? Okay. You fire it off. It can be dodged. It can be parried, and it inflicts 2d6 damage. And it sets things on fire. And then you can boost it up. You can boost power. There's power levels to things. You can do things. Magic has the ability to summon creatures. You've got the ability to cast things like missile attack stuff. You have the ability to do defense. You have the ability to do healing. You've got the ability to do kind of area of effect stuff. You've got crowd control stuff. All of the magic exists. However, and this is kind of a bit of a flaw, and it's a flaw because only one character can use magic. The magic list is very light. There's not a lot of magic. There's enough that you could make your guy, but I mean, there's not a lot here. There's just a little bit.
DG, you just told me there's 12 pages of magic.
Well, there's 12 pages on magic. There's not 12 pages of spells, right? Like when we get to the actual spells themselves, the spells go from and I'm just kind of let me get back up here. The spells themselves start at page 61 and they end at page 69. So there's 8 pages and that's it.
Oh.
Right. Compared to D&D that has like 150 pages worth of spells in the player's handbook alone, you know, like not 150. I know that's not the number. I made that up for exaggerating purposes. But I mean, 8 pages and that's it. Now, one character can cast spells in the game. I get it. But I mean, it would have been nice to see a little bit of extra there. That's all.
Yeah, it would have. But again,
there's room for growth and it's only been out for almost 2 years, not even fully 2 years yet.
We're rules medium, so.
And we're, yeah. I get the feeling like they didn't want you, like, they don't want this to be a magey kind of game. They want you to be sword and board, tactical, on the front lines, playing chess, basically, right?
Yeah.
Standing in the back, throwing spells, not exactly the most tactical, but effective.
Effective, very, because I believe the monsters have almost as much hit points as players do. So that 2d6 could hurt a lot if you roll 12, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of HP gone.
That's a lot. The monsters are interesting. Did you get a chance to kind of look through the guts of the monsters?
A very little bit. I saw rollable tables for each monster. Now, that is cool because it's the monster attacks. There's
a lot going on behind the scenes with the monsters.
Yeah.
Monsters come in 2 flavors. There are monsters, like quote monsters end quote titled, and then there are just kind of standard monsters. And these standard monsters are considered non-monsters in that they don't count as a monster. They count as an ordinary NPC. If you look at the goblin on page 90, it has in there that the goblin does not count as a monster in combat. It actually counts as an ordinary NPC.
Right.
And why that is special is because monsters, quote, quote, title, have something called monster attacks. Monsters being like the boss monsters, the big bads. And these monster attacks are very strong.
Yeah.
They are very strong.
They are the big bads of the session, right?
Yes.
This is what you are adventuring.
This is what you're going towards. Yeah. You're heading off to go fight a giant. You're heading off to go fight the dragon, right? These
you don't
monster
care about
attacks,
the goblins along the way.
No, those are just like you're taking care of them as you go. The monster attacks are almost cinematic because they have flavor, right? For example, I'm looking at the giant here on page 88. There's a D6, there's a table. You roll a D6 if you'd like to. You can also just select it, whatever you want to do. But let's say you rolled a 4. You get sweeping blow. The giant sweeps its weapon at all adventurers within 10 meters. Anyone hit by the attack suffers 2d10 bludgeoning damage and is knocked down.
Excuse me?
That's big. And 10 meters is not 2 squares.
No.
That's 5 squares. No, 4 squares. 4 squares?
5.
5 squares. Yeah. 5 squares. Like, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a huge arc. And 2d10.
2d10. And that's, I mean, if we go back to your HP at this point.
Your HP can max out at 18.
At 18! So he can kill you in one swipe.
Well,
so
I mean, armor comes into play with damage reduction and stuff like that. But
still, like, I
you
mean,
still only have 18 health.
It's crazy. So, I mean, the monster attacks that exist in this, it's meant to be like the boss monster or the sub boss, or they're big bad. So there's a mix of these creatures in the monster manual of this game, the component that exists in here. And it is very, very cool. So as you kind of flip through, you can see some of them are non-monsters. Some of them have the monster attacks, and you can look through and build the encounters according, right? It would be incredibly important just to really emphasize learning how to block, evade, parry, etc., because those are going to be the things that are going to save you when these monster attacks happen.
If I were running a game of this, I would first off sit down with my players and say, let's build your characters. Okay, good.
Let's do a sample fight.
That wasted 20 minutes. All right. Let's roll initiative. Draw initiative. Okay, here's how that works.
Yep.
Here is a monster. Sorry, here is a quote-unquote monster, a non-monster, and we will fight him. And he will whoop your butts because you guys don't know how to play this yet. And we're going to
learn how to play this game
as we go. Hey, this is what you should have done here. If you had done this, he wouldn't have taken away 6 of your 12 hit points. Okay? So we'll learn from this experience.
Yep.
And hopefully apply it to everything from here on out, because if we don't, you guys are not going to have fun.
No, I absolutely think that you're right. That is the right way. If you're starting fresh, that's the right way to deal with this system, is to walk through character creation. Once you have your characters, okay, well, let's do a sample battle. This is not going to count against your HP, but let's just learn how to play the game this way. Especially if you're the folks that you play this game with are not even that they're not tactical minded, that they're not used to playing tactical games. Because positioning is important, understanding your character is important, understanding limitations is important, knowing actions is important, understanding defenses and what you can do with your turn, knowing when you should and shouldn't use a reaction. Those things are going to make or break your character in this game.
Yeah. And they will break your character quickly.
They will break your character. Absolutely. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know, Finn. I think that that mostly walks through the game in a nutshell. I mean, obviously you can grab the book. Like I said, we said $50 on Amazon.
That's for the set,
for the box set.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you can go to the website. Hook yourself up with the book
itself is like $30 or something like that.
It's definitely not going to break your wallet if your players are tactical minded and very heavy, like miniature combat. This would be a game, if I got into this game, this would be one where we would 3D print our miniatures. We would very detail make our miniatures, right? Like we would go into it kind of thing from that perspective, I think. I would really lean into it from that perspective, similar to what I would do with something like Warhammer or a different like wargaming type game.
I will note at the end of the book, there is a generator for a quest.
Yeah.
Sorry, not even a quest. It's a whole adventure generator. You've got the quest. Where do you start from, or why are we here? Characters around the journey. Where are your characters going? And these are and then adventure site, and these are all rollable tables, which is, and it's really neat because the table is like on a day roll a D4. One day, you rolled a 2 at the first light of dawn. Next up is a D6. The characters come across an encounter with Rudbull, a greedy but humorous mallard merchant who wants to seek revenge for treasure from that is called, he wants the Night Eye treasure. Like,
there you go.
You just
adventure
roll it
created.
Off. Exactly.
Literally page 109 in the book.
The hook is there. He wants you to go find the treasure called Night Eye. You don't know what the heck Night Eye is. But I'm sure if you ask him, he'll tell you.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
This table highlights what's important in this game, right?
Yes.
This table shows you that the adventure and the story and that stuff kind of takes a bit of a backseat. It's the combat, it's the strategy, it's the board, the game itself from that perspective, right?
Very much so.
Really, that's where your meat and potatoes of the game is.
Yeah.
I don't know, Finn, opinions? What are we thinking about Dragonbane?
I really like the roll under system.
Yeah, that's a cool system.
I really like it. It works really well in Call of Cthulhu. It works extraordinarily well in here.
For sure.
My least favorite part is the reactions are considered actions on your turn.
Right.
That's the only real gripe I have with this system. Just because it feels really constricting with the flow of battle. Other than that, everything else is really cool. I love the mallard race.
Mallard's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking Darkwing Duck in a suit of armor, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
Silly stuff like that. How about you?
I totally agree across the board there. There's a lot to like in the game here. The art in the book, phenomenal. It is another one. I mean, I love art in general, but this book is really, really good. The simplicity of the character creation, I think, is really, really good. The thought that went in, we had mentioned earlier, that eliminates the requirement to flip back and forth. I think that is super, super cool. I mentioned about the magic being a little light. I think I would have liked to see a little bit more spells. It would change the way I would build my wizard. I'm concerned that my mages would all be the same build, right? Like that there wouldn't be a whole lot of shifting. There's enough spells in there that you could shift it around a little bit, but I fear that with the limitation there, that there wouldn't be as much customization as I would like to see there. It's a middle of the road complexity RPG, right? It's not nearly as rules light as the last couple that we've done with Merkborg and Traveler, or not Traveler, Merkborg and Dungeon Crawl Classics, but it's also not as in depth as like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder 2E, right? And so my concern would be that you'd need the perfect group in order to play this game, right? Certain people aren't going to have that strategic mind, myself being one of those people. I don't have that ability to think. I run in face first, so I feel like I would be losing a lot of characters, and that might push me a little bit further away from wanting to play the game. At the end of the day, I mean, if I was rating this out of 3, I would say this is a solid 2 out of 3 game. Maybe not a need to have, but definitely something that is fun. It's got its little uniqueness. I see stuff in this game that I would probably skim and steal for my Dungeons and Dragons game. I think if you had a tactical mind, though, this game would be 100% on your table.
I would say that it'd be something to have in your library of games, just in case the right people come along and you can sit down and play, a couple one-shots with it.
For sure.
I can't see it being a 2-year campaign of this game.
Definitely
That would be hard pressed to do that.
Yeah.
But as a few one-shots or back-to-back one-shots to make a mini story arc out of it, I could definitely see that working very well for this game.
Just for the sake of creating the Mallard characters, I think it might be worth it just on that alone.
Just have get Scrooge McDuck with Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
That's right. Yeah, it would be perfect.
That is Dragonbane in a nutshell. That's Dragonbane.
Absolutely. Yeah, go check it out. Finn, we've got some post. What were we calling this? The post pod.
Yeah.
The post pod section of the show here. I wrote this one. It was me. I did this one. So I get to ask you first, which is super cool. Tell me about one of the best moments. I can't say what is the best moment because there's so many, and maybe this is something we can lean on this a little bit as we kind of go. But tell me one of the best moments from a session of gaming that you've had, that you've been part of or witnessed to.
So in our first in-person game, my character was a full orc, raging barbarian who carried 2 battle axes,
right,
one in each hand. His
Yeah.
name was Torug.
Yep.
Torug rolled lucky and got a potion of flying
Right.
as his gear. Now this was a level 7 to 9
Yeah, something like
thing.
that.
It was a
That mid-level.
Yeah. So at the very end, we were fighting this spider queen who had set up a lair, and she was on this web over top of a chasm, and we were fighting her. And I'm like, I'm going to take this potion of flying because, hey, it lasts for an hour.
Right.
So, and how does Torug fly? Straight up and down, standing, like feet down, just floating, like
Yeah,
he's,
there's no Superman pose here.
No,
no.
like
Like
the
as if he
Martian
was just
Manhunter,
standing
right?
on the ground.
Yeah.
Except he's flying.
Except for he's flying everywhere. He's like da 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 da. And so we're fighting this spider queen, and she's just laying into us. And then I pull out my brass horn of Valhalla.
Yep.
And I go toot toot, and I summon like 10 berserking raging barbarians to fight with us. So they all swarm her. Meanwhile, I'm still floating around attacking, and the rest of the party's like shooting off everything. Your cleric, I believe, had the planetar up or something, and just going to town. And that will always stand out in my mind as one of the coolest moments I've ever had.
Yeah, the straight vertical flying, just standing vertical, hovering, flying through the air. That is a sight to behold. Yeah.
And even when he got knocked back, he was upside down. He just flew upside down from there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He never rotated
no difference.
himself.
He doesn't know how to fly.
That's right. He was a
before.
barbarian.
That's so funny.
How about you?
Man. So I was thinking about this. I've been part of so many. I've got stories, which is why I think we'll have to return to this one again. The first one that came to mind happened. We were playing 4th edition D&D, and a friend of mine. I was running the game. I was running the Slaying Stone. It was called. It was kind of it was a published adventure, but I kind of was doing my own thing with it. And so what ended up happening is I had this dragon was in possession of the Slaying Stone. The Slaying Stone was this almighty one-time use magic item that you would point it at something and say destroy, and it would literally obliterate whatever it is that you pointed at and destroyed it. And the players had to go and get this in order to defeat the big bad evil guy of the campaign, because it was the only way that they were going to be able to do it. And so they go through this cavern, this big, long adventure. They finally get to the end to the dragon, and they convince the dragon through a series of skill challenges, because that was a thing in 4th edition, was skill challenges. Through a series of skill challenges, and they succeed. And this guy, his thief, convinces the dragon to hand it over. Out of their treasure hoard, all they want is this one thing. Then they'll go away. They'll leave the dragon alone.
This extra powerful MacGuffin.
Extra powerful MacGuffin. And the dragon's like, okay, fine. You win. You've convinced me here. Take your stone and get out of my lair. And the player's like, great, thanks. And then I like, it happened so fast. As a DM, I didn't even realize it. So it's like the dragon hands you the Slaying Stone, and you get it in your hand, and you feel the weight of this stone and the energy that it's giving off. And the player goes, wow. And I look at it, and I point it at the dragon, and I say, destroy. It's just like, no. What? You destroy the dragon? And so then it was just like, boom, dragon's gone. That's it. The big bad evil guy. I don't know how you guys are going to deal with this. I was young in my DM days, so I not one time even fathomed the idea that they would immediately turn that weapon around on the dragon that gave it to them. But that will go down in history as the moment that I learned as a DM, never underestimate your players, and they will always do something to surprise you. Yeah, he just turned it on the dragon, was like, destroy the dragon. And sure enough, the dragon died.
That's so good.
Kudos to the thief. The thief played their role because the thief was like, I want the dragon's treasure. I don't give a crap about the big bad evil guy. I want this big mound of treasure, the treasure trove that was literally in front of them.
As
and
thieves do.
that was it. So epic moment. I'm going to remember that one, I think, forever, which is
That's a really cool one. I like that.
That's gonna do it for this episode 7. Thank you so much if you've gotten this far. We appreciate you listening to the podcast. You can get in touch with us if you would like to. We have an email. You can reach us at mastersofpenandpaper@gmail.com. Also, you can find us in the Discord. We have put a handy dandy link for you right down there in the description. Simply click on that link, join the Discord. You can talk with Finny and myself. Send us an email, do all of those things. You can also catch us live. We do D&D every single Sunday on twitch.tv/DGOnline. This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as well. The YouTube address it's posted under is youtube.com/@DadGamingOnline. I don't know, Finn, is there anything else to add at that point?
I don't think so. I think that's about it.
That's going to cover it. Send us any of your comments, rate the show. If you want to help us out, the best way to do so is tell your friends that the show exists and put comments on, rate, review, let us know that you're out there. We'll throw a shout out to you.
I think we have a mailbag episode coming up, so we want to hear some of your stories and whatnots, and if we get them in, we'll probably read them on here and discuss things and say how cool they are.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear your scenarios.
Yeah.
Pass them over to us.
We love hearing from you guys.
100%. That's it from us.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you on the next one.